check again now, guys?
Sure.
Okay.
You see it?
See Anne's face.
Yay. Streaming on Facebook. We look very funny. Because, you know, looking down, looking up. Keep looking up. I put a little Post-it note next to my camera. You know, my little dot.
Yeah.
And it says you can see it on Facebook, right?
But we'll still start at 7.
Okay, it just
Which is
tells me
now-
I'm offline.
Shall we just check again?
Well,
Or
see
should
if
we-
you can put it on YouTube.
Yeah, I think we're on.
It looks like 7 people are watching
All right, go for it.
On Facebook or YouTube or both?
on Facebook.
Okay, great.
8.
Well, whatever. We're here. We're watching. Hello, 7 people. Hi, I'm Anne Chicolello, Artistic Director for Austin Shakespeare, and we're excited to have 2 of our actors with us today via virtual world. And you know, some of us don't think that it's theater if it's virtual, but we'll take whatever we can get. So welcome to Mark Puhay and Michael Miller.
Hey, great to be here.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you both.
Great to see
Mark is in Austin, which is great. We're glad to have him here. But I was excited that because we were on virtually, we could then get Michael Miller to be with us.
you.
So Michael, tell everybody where you are.
I'm in Atlanta, actually Sandy Springs, which is kind of a suburb of Atlanta. But yeah, I've been here for the past, 2 years or so now.
Wow, it's amazing.
I know.
And Mark, I know I got the dates wrong, so correct me now. When did we do Othello?
Yeah, that was actually a February of 2014 production. It was my first play back after a short hiatus. Well, it wasn't that short. I stopped acting for about 5 years, but that was my first play back.
Wow. And Michael, you've done lots with us, including in the park,
Right.
as well as at the Rollins Theater at the Long Center.
That's right.
And it's funny because I have memories of that play of you as Iago and Othello, of the visual aspects of that very clearly, of the end of the play for you.
Oh, yeah.
We also had some video that Laura Bartholomew created that I think I was the only one that noticed. And at one point, I think during the scene you're going to read tonight, there was a branch and there was a spider that crawled along that branch. And the audience was so riveted on Michael and Mark that I wanted to say, no.
Yeah, I never saw a spider. I was always riveted on Michael.
You had Michael as the spider.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit more about all your experiences with Austin Shakespeare, because as our new motto goes, we do more than the bard.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about the stuff that you've done for Austin Shakespeare, Mark.
Sure. Well, my very first professional play was with Austin Shakespeare. My first professional production. That was in September, October 2004. I was actually doing A Midsummer Night's Dream in the park at Zilker Park, at a very small role, Theseus. He's kind of a duke that opens the play and closes the play. He had a nice couple of monologues, and it was a really great way to break into professional theater. And my second production with Austin Shakespeare was that next spring. I actually got an opportunity to play Othello the first time in 2005. Very big role that I probably wasn't ready for that early in my professional career, but I'm very glad I got to revisit it again later on.
Am I
with Austin
remembering
Shakespeare.
that there was an opera director who directed that Othello, or was it Guy
No,
Roberts?
I believe it was Guy Roberts as
Okay.
well. Yeah.
Might have been an earlier one.
But throughout my time with Austin Shakespeare, I've done everything from Tennessee Williams. I think I did the Glass Menagerie back in 2006 or 7, probably 2006. obviously did Macbeth twice with Anne, once in the Rollins and once outdoors, which is a totally different experience because the heat and the humidity gets to you outside. So sword fighting with a wet sword is a little bit challenging. Cyrano. Cyrano is definitely not Shakespeare, but I enjoyed my time with that. And Present Laughter, my first and only experience with Noel Coward, but that was great. I've not had a lot of great experiences with Austin Shakespeare that have not been Shakespearean, so to speak, but really classical works and some contemporary, some contemporaries of Shakespeare as well. But it's been a lot of my experience and leading roles have been through this company.
Cool. And I want to hear later about other Austin theaters because Austin has so much theater, and Mark's very much been part of this world. But Michael, tell us about Austin Shakespeare and Michael Miller.
Well, I've done lots more than The Bard through Austin Shakespeare. My first production was a production of Romeo and Juliet back in 91, possibly. Not at the Zilker performance venue that you use now, but it was the Rock Theater across.
I love that Rock Island.
Yeah, I played Tybalt in that production.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that was fantastic. And then in the more recent times, after I took a hiatus as well, like Mark had done, I came back and did Pride and Prejudice, played Mr. Darcy for you. So that was fantastic. I did, what else? Design for Living, which was Noel Coward, one of two Noel Cowards I've done with you. And I loved that show. That was so fantastic, as well as all my experiences with you have been. Winter's Tale in the Park, and that was my first park production there in Zilker. And that was a whole new experience for me as well. There were nights when there was a kitty who ran across the stage, I remember, and dogs and kids that really, you learn how to really focus and stay in the moment and you try to use what's going on around you, because that's what I think Shakespeare's original actors did as well. They used what was happening there in the moment. What else have we done together? The Invention of Love.
Tom Stoppard.
Tom Stoppard, exactly. So it's just been so many great experiences.
Cool, thank you. And did I realize that Darcy was your return? I mean, I must have realized it at the time.
I did a couple of shows before that with
other
companies.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my first kind of venture back with a more professional company.
Big back, that's great. So Mark, tell us, it would take forever to tell us all the shows that you've done, but tell us a little bit about other Austin theaters and what they're like that you've worked with.
Sure. Probably the biggest theater that I've worked with, just in size, sheer size of budget and capacity, is Zach. I did a lot of plays with them between 2006 and 2009, everything from You're in Town to Take Me Out and The Grapes of Wrath, and then which was actually my last show I did before I took my hiatus for illness, and I'll talk about that later on. And most recently, I returned to Zach playing Scrooge and Christmas Carol. That was such a huge production, and I look forward to returning to it again. But just so many talented singers and dancers and kids, and it's a kind of a spin on the tale of Scrooge. I mean, the bones of it are still there, but there's modern music, and I did my best to try and make the character as realistic as possible, so to speak, even though he's a fictional character, but make the journey that he travels very realistic.
Well, we'll talk more about the future later, but we hope that you'll be back playing Scrooge this Christmas.
I hope so too. But
tell us about some of the smaller and mid-sized theaters.
Sure. I've done some work with Spectrum Theater, which is one of the African-American theaters, the premier African-American theater company in Austin. Billy Hardin was one of the founding members of that company. May he rest in peace. Really enjoyed my work with them. I've done some great work with Austin Playhouse as well. I got to play everybody from Martin Luther King to Willie Loman and Satchel Paige with them. And one of the great authors in Austin, one of the great writers in Austin, Lisa B. Thompson, had a small part in Monroe that was done at Austin Playhouse, and another part in Underground that was done at the Vortex. But I think I've sampled from some of the smallest venues in town to some of the largest, and they all have their own.
Is Underground the one we're going to see this Sunday night on?
Yes, this Sunday night there'll be a Zoom performance of that, just a Zoom reading. Myself and one other actor, Jeffrey Johnson, directed by Rudy, and Lisa Thompson's given her blessing to that. That'll be in a Zoom performance for the public.
So this is Rudy Ramirez, who directed the production
in 2017. Yeah, exactly.
And this is the Public Theater of San Antonio.
That's correct. Is the sponsoring organization, yeah, or producing organization, if that's so to speak. Yeah.
Good. Hey, you've done St. Ed's, have you not?
Yes, I can't believe I left them out, but I've done a lot of great work at St. Ed's. I think I counted the other day between 7 or 8 shows, which it blows me away.
So these use undergraduate actors, but equity actors performing side by side with undergraduate actors.
Yes, it's a phenomenal training program for the undergraduate actors, and as a professional, I mean, it's a blessing. You get 5 weeks to rehearse, and you have so many resources available to you. You have an entire costume shop and designers. They'll usually, sometimes companies will pull stuff that they can find or whatever, but they have such a budget, and students are working on you and tailoring you and working on a rhinoceros mask for you. But yeah, there's some great roles there. From my smallest role to date, which was smallest but pivotal role, Tom Robinson in To Kill a Mockingbird, to just some large roles. I can't even really. Well, my very first role there was definitely The King's Horseman, and that was a very
so you're talking about university. So St. Edward's is a university with a theater program. At the University of Texas at Austin. Our colleague, Robert Ramirez, has recently been named chair.
Yes.
And he directed for Austin Shakespeare Comedy of Errors, which Mark was in, and had a really marvelous cast. So they're really lucky to have him now leading the department. So Michael Miller, tell us all the companies you've worked with in Austin and what you can remember.
Oh, in Austin? Let's see, I worked at St. Ed's as well. I kind of had a brief interruption to my hiatus, and I did Galileo at St. Ed's.
Oh, wow, that's such a fabulous script.
It is. Played Cardinal Barberini. So as Mark was saying with the costumes, I had this intricate Susan Branch Town design. This great, I became Pope. He was named Pope at one point, and there's intricate, beautiful little tiny buttons all the way to, oh my God, it was such a beautiful, the vestments that she costumed me in were so fantastic. What else? I've worked with Austin Playhouse, did Disgraced there a few years ago, which was a wonderful, very relevant, timely script. I've worked a lot at Zach as well. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, the musical I did. Let's see, The King and I. What else? One Man, Two Governors, All the Way, Great Society, which were the plays about LBJ, LBJ's presidency. And that's a fantastic place to work as well. Those are the companies that have primarily kept me busy. The last thing I did in Austin before I left was with Present Company Theater. We did a production of Romeo and Juliet up on the roof of the Whole Foods building, 6th and Lamar. And I played the nurse. It was a very stripped down production. There were 8 actors. The actors who played Romeo and Juliet just played Romeo and Juliet. The rest of us played multiple characters, but my primary was the nurse. So that was fantastic as well.
I got to jump in here.
Yeah.
I actually played the nurse the first time I worked for Ann Chickalella
Oh, really?
Tales of Shakespeare. It was a Project Interact collection of short shows that Zach, that we used to run around in a bus, and it was a who's who of modern Austin theater. It was like Lee Eddy, Gabriel Luna, who's in the Terminator movie, the most recent one, and a couple of young actors, Derek Whitner. I can't remember the other actress's name, but yeah, I got to play the nurse, and then along with Prospero and somebody else. But that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Alex Alford, who's helping putting all this together, was my managing director at Project Interact. And, you know, some of the folks who became the Rude Mechanicals were originally in Project Interact for a long time.
Nice.
Sean Sides and so.
Right.
So I do want to go to right now, what's happening for you right now. And, you know, we will get to do some Iago and Othello just in a few minutes. But how are you doing these days? How is your health, both of you? I know you're both involved in Black Lives Matters activities. And we just want to get a sense of what's life now when you're not live in the theater with us.
Mike, you want to go first?
I'm, you know, I still have my day job and doing that work from home thing. So that has occupied a lot of my time. You know, you hear about all these people since COVID, stay-at-home orders and things like that have started, that they have all this time to watch Netflix or, you know, write that great American novel or whatever. But I feel like, you know, I do my regular day job, and at the end of the day, I'm just kind of, you know, as usual. But we have tried to use the time to, as much as possible, find new ways of thinking and viewing and experiment as in whatever ways I can to live life in a new way. You know, anything from, you know, I bought a bicycle, you know, just to keep myself, you know, occupied and exercised, because there wasn't a whole lot else to do. And I've loved watching the theater productions that are available now that a lot of companies are, like the National Theater Live. I've been watching those every week. They come out with a new recorded version of one of their shows that they've had previously. So I've loved watching that, those. Yeah, otherwise, I think my health is good. I'm a little anxious every time I go out. You kind of feel a little bit of burning in my lungs. It's purely psychosomatic, I know, but I had my first big venture out in public last Sunday. I did go down to Centennial Park here in Atlanta, which has kind of been the center, as I understand it, of where a lot of the protests have been happening. I felt like I needed to go out and experience and see and support and be there and put my body out there. It was a little anxious for me to be, because everybody was so jam-packed together. So I was a little, you know, but it's worth it to be out there and to make your presence felt. So whatever else might happen, it's totally worth it, I think. So yeah, that's kind of basically what I've been up to.
As far as I go, I still work from home like Mike. That hasn't changed. I've actually been working from home for a couple of years now. My current job has had that. So that aspect of it hasn't changed. But, you know, I've seen friends from all walks of all industries, you know, be affected by either the shutdown or their own companies, you know, having to cut down staff or furlough. So that's just a real challenge, part of the landscape that everybody's going through. My own concerns, like Mike as well, you know, I'm a kidney transplant recipient, so I'm very concerned about, you know, my immune system and being outside. But that brings me to my next involvement in what's happened in the last 2.5 weeks in our country. I am doing everything I can to write, to engage people, and take the mask off, so to speak, you know, of things that I've been feeling. I'm 45 years old, and things that are finally being addressed in the mainstream by corporations and by executives and by some government officials are things that I've witnessed since, you know, at least since I was a teenager. I know that they were happening before I was born, but I wasn't aware of them fully. I'm not going to spend all day talking about this, but just for a short timeline, the gentlemen who I like to call the exonerated five are exactly my age. Exactly my age. And they were 14 when they were first, between 14 and 16 when they were first arrested, wrongly imprisoned. I watched the LA uprising in a television cart wheeled into my classroom during my senior year. I really just saw kind of like a steady stream of that, over the next 15 years. And what really, really sparked my, I don't want to say interest, but really sparked my worldview was how the world reacted to the Trayvon Martin murder, and how his killer was not held accountable for that, and the rapid succession of those same hashtag cases that we keep hearing over and over and over. And as horrific as the current tragedy is with George Floyd, who is also my age, a few months older than me. I'm turning 46 this November. The way that has galvanized the entire world into action, I've never seen anything like this before in my life. And I hope that this sticks. And I hope that the activity and the activism that people are engaging in and corporations are engaging in and the accountability that's being held continues beyond this summer and beyond the hashtag. And it's not just police brutality that we're addressing, but inequalities across the board in education and in healthcare and in access to employment and, hundreds of years of inequalities in this country. But anyway, that's how I've been.
This really brings us to Shakespeare.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So here we are plunging into Shakespeare writing about a Moor, M-O-O-R. And, lots of people sort of bob and duck around, well, what about the Merchant of Venice? And how do you do these plays? And, how are people shown and so on? And Mark and I have gone at them full on. So I do want to talk about them, but right now let's start to think about breathing and reading some. So this is a number of years ago that we did this piece. And do you know the time in the play when you were on your knees? Was it later? Because it's when you do the oath, right? That you're gonna.
Yeah, it's got to be after this, because the scene that we're going to do now is
it's this
first
scene.
seed that he's planting. Yeah,
and we put some pictures up of that. It was such a fantastic moment. So right now, I know we got you all riled up in other ways.
That's a good warm up.
Take a breath, do whatever you want, and we'll all just be listening to these words of Shakespeare, of Othello and Iago in conversation. And take your time. Who's got a phone call? What is that?
I'm trying to turn that off right now.
And,
apologize.
Take your time.
Google Voice. All right. Awkward. Okay.
It's like reality,
Yeah.
They're calling to let you know they see you on Facebook.
Oh, no. Good light. Please. Will this not stop? Okay. Airplane mode.
I'm going to go off video and leave it to you guys, but take your time.
Thou dost conspire against thy friend Iago. If thou but thinkst him wrong and makest his ear a stranger to thy thoughts.
I do beseech you. Though I perchance am vicious in my guess, as I confess it is my nature's plague to spy and do abuses, and oft my jealousy shapes faults that are not, that your wisdom yet from one that so imperfectly conceived would take no notice, nor build yourself a trouble out of his scattering and unsure observance. It were not for your quiet, nor your good, nor for my manhood, honesty, or wisdom to let you know my thoughts.
What dost thou mean?
Good name in man and woman, dear my lord, is the immediate jewel of their souls. Who steals my purse? Steals trash. 'Tis something, nothing. 'Twas mine, 'tis his, and has been slave to thousands. But he that filches from me my good name robs me of that which not enriches him and makes me poor indeed.
By heaven, I'll know your thoughts.
But you cannot if my heart were in your hand, nor shall not whilst 'tis in my custody.
Ha!
Oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat it feeds on. Oh, that cuckold lives in bliss, who, certain of his fate, loves not his wronger, but oh, what damned minutes tells he o'er, who dotes, yet doubts, suspects, yet strongly loves.
Oh, misery.
Poor and content is rich, and rich enough, but rich is fineless, is as poor as winter to him that ever fears he shall be poor. God, heaven, the souls of all my tribe defend from jealousy.
Why? Why is this? Thinkest thou I'd make a lie of jealousy to follow still the changes of the moon with fresh suspicions? No. To be once in doubt is once to be resolved. Exchange me for a goat when I shall turn the business of my soul to such exsufflicate and blown surmises, matching thy inference. 'Tis not to make me jealous, to say my wife is fair, feeds well, loves company, is free of speech, sings, plays, and dances well. Where virtue is, these are more virtuous. Nor from mine own weak merits will I draw the smallest fear or doubt of her revolt. For she had eyes and chose me. No, Iago, I'll see before I doubt. When I doubt, prove. And on the proof, there is no more but this. Away at once with love or jealousy.
I am glad of it. For now I shall have reason to show the love and duty that I bear you with franker spirit. Therefore, as I am bound, receive it from me. I speak not yet of proof. Look to your wife. Observe her well with Cassio. Wear your eye thus, not jealous nor secure. I would not have your free and noble nature out of self-bounty be abused. Look to't. I know our country disposition well. In Venice, they do let heaven see the pranks they dare not show their husbands. Their best conscience is not to leave 't undone, but keep 't unknown.
Dost thou say so?
She did deceive her father, marrying you. And when she seemed to shake and fear your looks, she loved them most.
And so she did.
Why go to then? She that so young could give out such a seeming to seal her father's eyes up close as oak. He thought 'twas witchcraft. But I am to blame. I humbly do beseech you of your pardon for too much loving you.
I am bound to thee forever.
I see this hath a little dashed your spirits.
Not a jot. Not a jot.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you
Good
so much.
times, man. I'm ready to do this again.
Yeah, me too.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's
Really?
a lot of good tension.
Writer.
Yeah, he's a great writer. It's this old Billy Shakes. He ain't bad. He did all right.
How does it feel doing it on? I mean, you know, you've had the experience of doing it together, so you really have sort of played the tennis match. But how does it feel doing it on a virtual screen?
It's kind of like shooting a disjointed film, but it's very much, you have to be aware of your stillness, and you still have to be focused. And instead of using the whole theater or the whole hillside, you've got literally this, but you still have to come across. I think it's very much like film. That's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, it's not as bad as I thought it might be. You know, I thought there might be some sort of delay or something like that. But it works well. You know, I miss having that in the flesh contact. You know, being able to look in Mark's eyes and to sense what's going on with his, you know, whole presence, and then you work off that, and you feed on, you kind of go back and forth seeing that whole, you know, presence, and then having the audience there as well.
Yes.
You know, and you, particularly with this show, with this play, I remember, you know, Iago has so many soliloquies, right? And that's when, to me, he shows his true face.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the time, it's gaslighting, it's, you know, the lying, it's manipulation. But even then, with the audience, I always kind of felt, how true is that with the audience? But it was great with the audience because there were nights when I think I had one line, "Who calls me now a villain?" or something like that. And one guy in the audience one night went, he raised it. And so I was able to play on him. Okay. And then I worked off that. It was fantastic. That's something that live theater, you don't find anywhere else, you know?
Well, there's nothing like human beings gathering together and experiencing it together, for sure.
Yeah.
But this is a great, you know, vehicle. So thank you so much for agreeing to do it and
Oh, yeah.
and doing it. I mean, what I got so much was getting both characters' inner conflict, or seeming, in the case of Iago, right?
Yeah.
Seeming inner conflict. Oh, I don't want to tell you this, you know? And it did have some of the good politicians dissembling, you know, a politician is a good dissembler,
Yeah.
but it felt very political to me. I don't know if it was the moment, but thank you. That was just wonderful, wonderful stuff. It's great. You know, people ask me, and I'll tell you my opinion later, but what's your feeling about coming back and when that might happen? Do you guys have a crystal ball or any feelings either for yourself as
Just a live theater?
Yeah, live theater got coming back. Yeah.
You know, I have some things scheduled theoretically. I mean, in a perfect world, without a vaccine, I don't know that I would feel 100% comfortable. But, you know, if it's something where there's really strict protocols, because, you know, it isn't feasible to be in my house for a year and a half. It really isn't. And I am used to not acting for long stretches at a time, but, you know, if something can be done safely, you know, I'll definitely examine it when the opportunity comes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Michael, how are you feeling about?
You know, going back to the having those live bodies there in person. I mean, I think about when we did that show at the end. You know, I was on my knees, and this is after Mark finds out, you know, or Othello finds out that Iago has done all of this horrible stuff. And Mark, you were always in this rage and you were ready to kill me.
Right.
And I remember we would sort of like rams lock horns.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Your head against my forehead, and
Right.
just, you know, and we were both sweating, pouring sweat at that point, and sometimes our heads would kind of slip a little bit, you know.
Sweat and spit machines. That's what we
Wrestling
were. Really.
match kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Yeah.
Can you do that? You had posted, I think, Mark, a few weeks ago, pictures that a theater, I think in Germany, had posted of their seating configuration.
Yes.
And all these clusters, and they're 2 here, 3 here, 4,
Mm-hmm.
just all over. And it's like most of the seats gone.
Yes.
That was frightening to me,
Mm-hmm.
to see that. And to think, one of my first thoughts, comedy. Ooh, how you gonna do comedy now without, the ass is packed in seats, and because that everybody feeds on each other when they're all kind of packed in together.
No, definitely. There's a threshold of engagement that has to be reached. I mean, we always joke we want to have more people in the audience than there are on stage. I've done my share of low attendance shows, but there's a difference between 15 people and 150 or 1,000.
Yeah. I was doing a production of Glengarry Glen Ross when things started shutting down, and we closed the run early because of that. And I remember one night, and in the middle, I played Shelley Levine, and I'm, at the end, kind of pleading for my life, and I'm again sweating. I'm a big sweater too, and I'm just really enunciating a lot, so kind of the spit's kind of flying a little bit, and I just kind of saw that for a moment. I thought, oh my God, am I going to freak out everybody here? I broke for a little bit, just internally, but I just thought, I can't do this anymore. I'm afraid, So I don't know. I think about things like that. I know that we have to come back. We have to find a way, and we will.
Mm-hmm.
Shakespeare, plague was a constant throughout Shakespeare's life from the time he was born or shortly after. And you can see it throughout the plays. He doesn't write plays about plague, but plague is a constant theme, and almost all or a lot of the plays, I think. So we can find a way, I know we will. I'm not smart enough to know what that way looks like now, but we have to.
Well, I will say that we're hoping we were supposed to do Midsummer Night's Dream, which is, of course, the most popular of Shakespeare's plays in Zilker Park, and through the month of May, the whole month of May. And we're hoping in mid-September to come back for a couple of weeks, but we don't know yet. And we're in collaboration with the Parks Department, so they'll help us figure it out. And the Zilker Summer Musical's already figured out 10,000, 100,000 square feet on the hillside. You could, segment it and do social distancing and so on. But we've also, of course, got to be careful for the actors and all that. But Mark, I wanted to give us just a little bit of an opportunity to talk about organ transplant.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite critics is called Terry Teachout, and his wife got a double lung transplant and was fine for the beginning, but eventually was not able to survive.
Oh, no.
And a young woman who got the COVID-19 had a double lung transplant today.
Oh my goodness.
She's in her 20s and came out and said to the doctor, "Thanks for sticking with me." So it's important for all of us to sort of know about organ transplant. So Mark, could you just say a little bit about what people might want to know?
Sure. I'm, for those who don't know, I'm a kidney transplant recipient. I received a kidney in June 1st of 2012. So I've really just had my 8-year anniversary, knock on wood, very recently. And the key to know about organ transplantation, my youngest brother actually donated an organ for me. He was a living donor. I don't actually have his organ. We were part of an organ exchange, a kidney exchange with multiple donors and multiple recipients. But he is in perfect health. It's not something that, as long as you take care of yourself like anything, if you're in good health before when you donate an organ, you should still be in good health afterwards. It's not going to be something that reduces your quality of life, but it can definitely save the life. It will save the life. I shouldn't say could. It will save the life of somebody who's receiving that. I just think it's miraculous that I've made it 8 years without any major issues. I take medication every day to keep me from rejecting it. But there are two types of organ transplantations. Some are just the regular ones that you can sign up as easily when you're, signing up for your license and say, I want to be an organ donor. In the unfortunate incident that you pass away, you can give your organs to different people. Another way is through living donation. And that's specifically for either organs that you have, duplicates of, like if you have 2 kidneys, or if you have, there's ways that you can actually donate part of your liver, I think now. And I think, I'm not sure if there's going to be a link in the chat, but one of the great ways to find out about that is going to organdonor.gov, www.organ.donor.gov. They've got a lot of different sections that can answer questions based on the states you're in, what steps you need to follow. And I share that one because it's not necessarily any specific organization. I'm not going to endorse or down any, private organization that does that, because they're all doing good work. But this one has a good database of different state programs and different resources. And it also has a section, if you want to look and go through the map there, of how to become a living donor as well. That's often for people who might necessarily know a friend or relative, and they're like, somebody says, hey, look, I need an organ, and they volunteer, or some really altruistic people just say, I want to become a living donor. And and I've seen a couple of stories like that. I mean, and that's a true hero. I mean, forget the Avengers, forget everybody else. I mean, if you are willing to give an organ and not even know who, a living organ, and give it to somebody who you don't even know, you've literally saved somebody's life that could be, in another state, or just somebody that you don't know at all. And
we'll put both of those in our YouTube comments when we're done.
Great.
And also in our Facebook comments.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of in our last section, I did want to talk about that next generation.
Mm-hmm.
And both of you have worked with our young Shakespeare actors. So we have actors from the ages of 12 to 19. They're working on Zoom every day, 6 days a week, to do a reading of Two Gentlemen of Verona, and they're having a great time. But would you guys just talk a little bit about your experience with young Shakespeare?
I worked with them most recently, I believe it was last year. Yeah. And I helped them do some, I helped young Macbeth, do some monologues. I didn't get a chance to work with young Lady Macbeth, but she did not need help. She was fantastic. And I think she's at North Carolina School of the Arts now.
Yes,
she is a pro. I mean, they're all good, but she's a pro. She did not need my help. But the fights, good Lord, the stunt work was phenomenal. I mean, I went to go watch. I was like, kids, please don't hurt yourself. But they were good. They were under control, and it was probably the most thrilling Macbeth I've seen. I mean, and I've been in it twice.
This was a protege of Toby Minor.
So okay.
Toby Minor is the top fight choreographer, and he worked with young, and he's doing fight choreography on Zoom. That is brilliant.
Oh, really?
But this is Riley Wesson, so we couldn't get Toby, and he's like, well, try. And he's young, but he's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I felt like I was seriously. I felt like I was watching Orson Welles stab people. It was crazy. It was good. They were really good. And I think I've helped in a couple of other ones, but that's the most recent one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've always loved the chance to get to. I feel honored to be able to work with the kids, because I mean, for one thing, it's a program that I wish I had when I was their age. I feel like I would have been so much further along as an actor now. I feel like I would be further along as a human being. I think a lot of the things that I did when I was younger weren't my strong suit. I was involved in lots of sports and learning instruments and that kind of thing. But a theater program, especially Shakespeare, I think would have just boosted my confidence, would have expanded my mind. And you can see it in these kids. I mean, working with them, they ask really penetrating questions. You can't walk in and think, oh, I'm just going to phone in working with them. No, they're really on top of their characters. They're on top of what the words say, what they mean. And, they will question you. They'll give you respect, but you have to, earn, the even more respect, I guess. It's just fantastic to work with them in the way that I think they make me, the times I've worked with them make me a better actor, because they ask questions that I, maybe didn't necessarily think to ask myself, so they're very, insightful. And then it's great to work with him towards the beginning of the process and then go out to the Curtain Theater.
Yeah.
Or wherever. I'm not sure if you're still going to be there or not at this point, but just to see the great strides they've even made. I mean, they were fantastic at the beginning, but my God, it's real professional level quality once you see them in actual performance.
Well, it's great. And they get to work with other kids who
Right.
care about the material, whereas maybe they're the only kid in their school
Right.
into
Yes.
Shakespeare acting.
Yeah,
Other kids
exactly.
might be into musical theater or whatever.
Right.
And we'll see what's going to happen, but we're having just preliminary conversations with Spectrum Theater Company that Mark's worked for about doing some monologue workshops and sort of building our connection and keep on getting better and working harder. Cool. Well, thank you guys. This was a lot of fun. Maybe the next time I'll have some girls.
Oh,
Please.
that would be great.
we need gender parity.
We have
There's not as much as there needs to be in Shakespeare, but
well,
we do our best to try
have to have an all-female Julius Caesar.
Exactly. We need to do that next. I'm all for it.
Well, thank you so much. This was really a lot of fun. We're very grateful for you to sharing your talents and your thoughts. And stay safe and be well.
All right.
Thank you, Anne. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.